So, ladies and gentlemen, supporters, friends, trustees, and most of all, Noon Scholars, I hope you've been enjoying yourselves this evening over our wonderful dinner, and I hope you've made new friends, rediscovered old friends. This is a celebration, and it's a special evening for us. And we, as I said earlier, we just didn't feel that we could let it slip by without sharing it. And there's nothing better than sharing food with good friends. So that's the purpose of this evening. I'm delighted that the High Commissioner Nafeez Zakaria could join us, and I thought he spoke very warmly indeed. And if you are one of our 7-8 Noon Scholars, then please note that he's given you an open invitation. I don't know what the hospitality is like. You might get a samosa. You won't get a whiskey, I think. But there'll be something there for you. Copy of Jinnah's memoirs as well. Now, I want to first of all start with some good news and then some bad news, as they say. But before I start the good news, I'm going to say that as I spoke to the High Commissioner sitting next to him, he did remind me that in Pakistan, 1 + 1 does not equal 2. And I thought that was very wise. So my good news element was actually to say that I thought, and I want to say this sincerely, that, I mean, we know that Pakistan is a country with huge, huge potential. And I want to suggest that it's also perhaps on the cusp of positive change. But I say that knowing that 1 + 1 does not equal 2. So we could point to a new kind of leadership. We can certainly point to, and this was mentioned earlier by one of our wonderful Noon Scholars, the demographic dividend, that it's a young country full of energy and great kind of potential. And I discovered that the average age in Pakistan, I hope I've got this right, is 23.6 years, which makes it one of the youngest countries in the world. So that must be a great potential. We've got a growing middle class. We've got greater awareness of women's rights, but there's a huge way to go. And maybe, and this is where the 1 + 1 = 2 doesn't, needs to be remembered again, maybe there's a lesser role for the military. But having said that, what the bad news comes from our board meeting this afternoon, because we had the most fantastic applications. We really did. I mean, I was moved by several of them. I mean, they were quite extraordinary. I trust they were all written by the candidates, but they were fantastic. They were. I mean, if I'd written that when I was applying to Oxford, I mean, I did apparently get a scholarship to a good college, but my application was nothing like the applications I read today. And so the bad news is twofold. The first part is that we ask students applying for a Noon Award what they plan to do when they go back, how they will help the development of the country. That was Vicky's deep, deep feeling about the point of this scholarship. And secondly, which I'll come back to, is of course we haven't been able to support all the very good candidates. And that will be my main message for tonight. But let me go back to the question of what we asked, what they told us they might do. Now, when I read these paragraphs and their statements, it was like a litany of huge challenges for Pakistan. No neonatal research in Pakistan. I want to start the first such institute. Healthcare, 52%, someone said, do not receive proper, decent access to healthcare. I want to set up health units, health centers, health seminars. Millions, and this figure quoted was 44% out of school, but the High Commissioner says that must be wrong. Lots of children not going to school. I want to set up, I can't build schools, it takes too long, it's too expensive, but I want to set up a technological educational structure. We might call it a kind of school open university to try to teach some of these youngsters. Huge gaps in scientific research, in computer studies. We were talking over dinner with colleagues that, India just is miles ahead, but there's no reason why India should be miles ahead. They've got the Bangalore Fen Valley or whatever, but we need a Lahore Valley. We need a Lahore Fen, a Lahore hub. Domestic violence, the disrespect for women. I mean, I said that there's some changes, but there's the applications showed us huge concerns about that, and wonderful women candidates who want to oppose and fight that, and people talking about dispossession of land in villages and so on. So my message is really that these through the applications, all the trustees learnt a lot about the challenges, and we have to think about that. But my second bad news is that, a deep pain that I feel, and I think all the trustees feel, about simply not being able to support some of these brilliant students. I mean, they are brilliant. 15 A-star GCSE O levels, 5 or 6 A levels, in the top 1 or 2% of their listings at university. Amazing references from both tutors from abroad as well as from Pakistan. And we're simply not able to support that. We know in our hearts that the scholarship support for good Pakistanis is nowhere near what India now provides to its scholars, let alone what countries like Germany or China or America or whatever support. And we've got to do something about that. So we have had a wonderful meeting. We have a wonderful board of trustees. And so we want to announce a couple of things tonight, a couple of initiatives, endeavors. The first is that we want to set up a fundraising initiative. We have a very comfortable endowment. We're very proud of that. And I'll come back to that in a minute about our wonderful founder. But tuition fees are going up through the ceiling, and returns, though they're not crashing to the floor, they've had their ups and downs, as we know, in this volatile period. So when 10, 15 years ago, talking to some of the scholars, there were 10, we could award 10 awards a year. Now we're looking at 4 or 5 awards a year. We're looking at 39,000 or 40,000 pounds a year needed to fund a scholar. And if the Noon provides half, and if Oxford and Cambridge provides half, we can still only hope to fund about 5 scholars. And frankly, we could have easily funded 10. So we have funded 5 new scholars today. Very proud of that. But we feel that there were at least 5 who should have deserved it. Maybe they'll find other sources. So we want to regard you as some of our friends, and we're going to come and talk to you. We're going to write to you and see if you can advise us about people who might be able to contribute in different ways. We can either do partnerships, or, given the wonderful experienced board we have, we're willing to, in a sense, look after other people's money if they are worried about the fact that we're the Noon Fund. I don't think Vicky will mind. Vicky was committed to ensuring that as many brilliant Pakistani scholars as possible could come to Oxford and Cambridge. So we're quite happy to manage, other money, matching money, sideways money. We'll be looking to try to increase the funding that we have, because we do feel that there is a gap. One of the experiments we've done this past year is to work with Mumtaz Khan, who runs an oil company in Lahore, who can't be with us today because he's in an urgent board meeting. But he has acted as a kind of a pilot for us by being a co-sponsor. In fact, for the wonderful Omar Kidwai, who spoke earlier. We want to kind of repeat that. We want to find other business people or philanthropists or older people who feel they have money to spare to make joint